The wind was silent on the dead planet of Virel. Ash floated through the air like gray snow. Everything was burned, the cities, the forests, even the rivers had turned into lines of black glass. A single human ship landed near the ruins, its engines humming softly before going quiet. Inside, Ethan Cole, a young human explorer, stepped out wearing his worn-out helmet and breathing mask. He was not supposed to be here. The Galactic law said no human was allowed to step onto Virel again after the war, but Ethan had come anyway. Something about this place called to him. Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity. He turned on his scanner and walked across the cracked ground. His boots crunched softly. The air was thin, the light dim, and everything around him was silent. Too silent. He could feel the weight of what humanity had done here. Then he heard it, a faint sound like a whisper carried by the wind. He froze. It was soft, broken, and filled with fear. "I can't find my mother." Ethan spun around, heart racing. The voice was close but shaky, as if the speaker didn't know exactly where they were. He took a few careful steps forward. His scanner flickered, showing a faint life signal. The voice came again, trembling, almost like a child's cry. "Please, I can't find my mother." Ethan raised his flashlight, moving it slowly, and then he saw her. She was small, maybe 10 or 11 years old, though her body wasn't quite human. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark, with a soft silver-blue light. Her hair was thin and white, and her eyes, they were pale, almost white, like cloudy glass. She stood still, facing the wrong direction. Ethan realized the truth. She was blind. He stepped closer, and the girl turned her head sharply toward him. Her ears twitched, reacting to the faint sound of his breathing. "Who are you?" Ethan asked softly, keeping his voice low. The girl took a step back, frightened. "Please, don't hurt me. I don't see you, but I hear your steps." Her voice was full of confusion and fear. Ethan lowered his weapon immediately. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lyra." Ethan's chest tightened. A living alien child, here on a planet everyone said was dead. He looked around nervously. If his commanders found out he had contact with her, he'd be court-martialed. But he couldn't leave her here alone. "What happened to your mother, Lyra?" he asked gently. "They came," she whispered, clutching her small hands together. "The ones with fire in the sky. They took her. I was hiding. She told me to stay quiet." Ethan felt a deep ache in his heart. The ones with fire in the sky, that was the human army. His army. He crouched down in front of her. "Lyra, are there others?" She shook her head. "No, everyone is gone. I waited, I listened, but I only hear the wind and the ashes." Her voice trembled. "Sometimes I hear them again. The heavy ones, the ones who walk with metal feet." Ethan frowned. "Metal feet?" Before she could answer, a low vibration moved through the ground. The sand trembled beneath their feet. In the distance, a red light flickered. Ethan's eyes widened. A human drone, the same type used to hunt for leftover alien tech, and to destroy anything still alive. He grabbed Lyra's hand. "We have to move now," she didn't resist. She just followed, holding tightly to his hand. Her steps were small but sure. Even though she couldn't see, she seemed to sense where things were. Her head tilting slightly, her ears moving like she was listening to the air itself. They ran into a half-broken building. The walls cracked and burned. Ethan hid her behind a fallen column while he watched through the cracks. The drone hovered above, its red light scanning the ground. Lyra whispered, "It's looking for me, isn't it?" Ethan didn't answer. He knew she was right. The drone passed overhead, scanning with cold precision. Ethan held his breath, waiting. Lyra stayed completely still, her hand gripping his tightly. Her body was trembling, but she didn't make a sound. Finally, the red light faded. The drone moved on. Ethan exhaled slowly and looked down at the small alien girl beside him. She was still shaking. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. Lyra nodded. "You sound kind," she said softly. "You're not like the ones from before." Ethan's throat tightened. "No," he said. "I'm not." They sat there in the shadow of the ruins. Outside, the wind howled softly through the empty streets of Virel. Lyra tilted her head. "Do you hear that?" Ethan listened. "Hear what?" She frowned slightly. "They're coming back." Before Ethan could ask what she meant, a deep metallic roar echoed across the plain. More drones. Maybe even soldiers. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to run. But Lyra just sat there, clutching her knees, whispering the same words over and over. I can't find my mother. I can't find my mother. And in that moment, Ethan Cole made a choice. He reached out, gently placed his hand on her shoulder and whispered, "Then we'll find her together." Outside, the red lights grew brighter, and the hunt began. The night on planet Virel was not truly dark. The air shimmered faintly with blue mist rising from the cracked ground. Broken towers stood like silent ghosts watching over the ruins. Ethan and Lyra hid inside an old underground tunnel, the smell of dust and metal filling the air. Ethan sat near the tunnel wall, checking his wrist scanner. No signal, he muttered. The sky above was full of storms and static, blocking communication. They were completely alone. Across from him, Lyra sat quietly, her small hands tracing lines in the dirt. Her eyes were closed, but her head moved slightly from side to side, listening. She seemed calm, almost peaceful. Ethan studied her in silence. She didn't behave like other children. She didn't panic or cry. Instead, she listened to every sound, every vibration, even the quiet hum of the wind through broken metal pipes. After a long silence, she spoke softly. "You're worried." Ethan looked up, surprised. "How do you know that?" Lyra smiled faintly. "I can hear it in your chest. Your heart beats fast when you think too much." He gave a small laugh. "You can hear my heartbeat?" She nodded. "I see through sound. Every voice, every breath, every step. They paint pictures in my mind. The world speaks to me." Ethan watched her curiously. "So you can see?" "Using sound." "Yes," she said simply. "When I clap, I see the shapes come back. When I speak, the walls answer me. The air tells me who is near." She tilted her head slightly toward him. "You are near. You are kind." Her words hit him harder than he expected. He had been trained to see aliens as dangerous, unpredictable beings. But this little girl, blind and gentle, was nothing like the enemy he'd been told about. He asked carefully, "Lyra, how long have you been alone?" She was silent for a moment, her pale fingers tightening around a broken pendant she wore. "Since the fire in the sky. My mother told me to hide. She said she would come back for me, but she never did." Ethan felt a sting in his chest. He looked around the dark tunnel, the cracked walls, the quiet echoes. This was no place for a child. "What was your mother like?" he asked softly. Lyra's face brightened. She sang. Her voice could heal the air. "She told me every sound has a color. She said one day, I'd see the stars through music." Her small smile faded, but then the humans came. They shouted. There were loud bangs. The stars turned red. I hid in the ground until the voices stopped. Ethan lowered his head. He had been a soldier during that same war. Maybe not on this planet, but he had seen cities burn, families run, and orders carried out without question. Orders that looked very different when seen through a child's words. Suddenly, Lyra's head turned sharply. "Something's coming." Ethan's hand went to his weapon. "Where?" She pointed toward the tunnel entrance. "I hear them. Not one, but three. Metal voices, flying." Ethan quickly checked his scanner and nothing yet, but he trusted her. He grabbed his pack and motioned for her to follow. They moved through the tunnels quietly. Lyra walked barefoot, her steps light and sure. She touched the walls now and then, using the soft clicks of her tongue to feel the space ahead. She was guiding him, a blind girl leading a soldier through the dark. When they reached a collapsed section, Ethan stopped. "There's no way through." Lyra tilted her head. "Wait!" She clapped her hands once. The sound bounced back unevenly. "There's a small hole on the right, crawl." Ethan looked, and she was right. He didn't even see it until she pointed. Together they crawled through the narrow space and entered another chamber. Inside, faint blue lights glowed along the walls, strange alien markings that pulsed like a heartbeat. Lyra smiled faintly. "My mother built this place. She said it would keep me safe." Ethan stepped closer to the glowing symbols. "What are they?" Lyra traced one with her hand. "Songs written in light. They tell stories when you listen closely." Before Ethan could ask more, a mechanical noise echoed from behind them. A metal clank, then another. He turned sharply. Through the hole they had just crawled through, a faint red light appeared. The drones had found them. Ethan pulled Lyra close. "Stay quiet." The red light swept across the room, scanning. Lyra pressed her face into Ethan's chest, trembling. He wrapped his arms around her protectively, whispering, "It's okay. I've got you." The drone hovered near the hole, then moved away, fooled by the thick walls. When the sound faded, Ethan finally breathed again. Lyra looked up at him, her pale eyes glowing softly. "You didn't leave me," she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. "I said I wouldn't." She reached out and touched his face gently. "Your voice sounds honest." "I trust honest voices." Outside, the rumble of thunder rolled across the dark sky. Ethan knew they couldn't stay here long. He checked his scanner again. Still no signal. But now, he had something else to protect. As the storm grew louder, Lyra turned her head and said quietly, "My mother's voice is still out there. I can hear her when the wind sings." Ethan looked toward the tunnel's dark exit and said, "Then we'll follow the wind," and together, they stepped back into the ruins, one human soldier, one blind alien child hunted by their own kind, bound by a promise neither fully understood yet. The first light of Virel's broken dawn spilled over the ruins, painting the sky in gray and red. The wind carried the smell of metal and dust, whispering through the hollow bones of the fallen city. Ethan and Lyra moved quietly beneath it, staying in the shadows of the collapsed buildings. Every sound echoed too loudly. Every movement felt like it might give them away. Ethan had wrapped a torn blanket around Lyra's shoulders. It was too large for her, but she didn't complain. She walked beside him, her pale eyes turned slightly upward, listening to the world instead of seeing it. "Your planet," Ethan said softly, his voice full of regret. "It was beautiful once, wasn't it?" Lyra nodded. There were singing trees. They hummed at night. My people would fall asleep listening to them. Ethan didn't reply. He could imagine it. Forests full of glowing leaves and alien songs. All gone now because of the war. Because of humans like him. As they walked, Lyra suddenly raised her hand. "Stop." Ethan froze. She tilted her head, her ears twitching slightly. "There's movement. 4 steps. Slow, careful, above us." Ethan looked up at the broken walkway above the street. His visor flickered and picked up faint heat signatures. Human soldiers. His pulse quickened. "We have to move." He led Lyra down into a narrow alley. It smelled of smoke and decay. As they crouched behind a metal crate, Ethan realized this was madness. If they caught him with her, he'd be branded a traitor. Helping any alien was forbidden by interplanetary law. But when he looked at her, small, lost, trusting him completely, he knew there was no turning back. Lyra whispered, "Why are your people hunting us?" Ethan hesitated. "Because they think you're dangerous," she frowned. "Do I sound dangerous to you?" He looked into her pale eyes. "No, not even close." Suddenly a deep hum shook the ground, the alley filled with a red glow. A search drone hovered into view, its sensors scanning the air. Ethan pulled Lyra close against the wall. "Stay quiet," he whispered. But the drone had already picked up their movement. It emitted a sharp beep and aimed its cannon. Ethan grabbed his rifle and fired a burst of blue plasma. The drone exploded in a flash of light, raining sparks. Now the soldiers above would know exactly where they were. "Run!" Ethan shouted. Lyra followed without hesitation. Her feet were light, her steps sure even through rubble. Ethan stayed close behind her, shooting at the pursuing drones. One blast struck near his leg, throwing him to the ground. He groaned, clutching his side. Lyra stopped, turning toward him. "Ethan! Keep going!" he yelled, but she didn't move. She knelt beside him, her small hands on his arm. "No, I won't leave you." Ethan looked at her in disbelief. "You can't see, Lyra, you'll get lost." "I don't see with my eyes," she said firmly. "I see with your heartbeat. You're hurt. I can hear it." He was about to argue, but she pressed her hands against the cracked wall beside them. The faint hum of energy spread through her palms. A hidden doorway opened, with a faint blue light shining from inside. Ethan stared. "How did you—" "My mother built these tunnels," Lyra said simply. "I know their songs." They stepped inside and the door sealed behind them. The sound of soldiers shouting outside faded away. Ethan leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "You just saved my life." Lyra tilted her head. "You saved mine first. Now we are even." Ethan couldn't help but smile. Fair enough. The tunnel ahead was filled with dim light and ancient alien technology. Strange symbols glowed along the walls like constellations. Ethan could feel the hum of power under his boots. "What is this place?" he asked. Lyra touched one of the glowing lines. "A memory vault. My mother kept her research here. She said it was important." "Something called Project Harmony." Ethan frowned. "Harmony?" Lyra nodded slowly. "She said it could make humans and my people understand each other. Through sound, through feelings." Ethan's mind raced. He had heard whispers of such a project, a failed experiment that could connect minds. But it was said to be dangerous, even deadly. Before he could ask more, a voice echoed through the tunnel's intercom, a cold, familiar voice. "Ethan Cole, you've broken every order we gave you. Step away from the alien and surrender immediately." Ethan froze. He knew that voice. Commander Rylan, his old friend. Lyra gripped his sleeve tightly. "Who is that?" He swallowed hard. "Someone who doesn't understand mercy." Rylan's voice grew sharper. "You think you can hide? We're coming for you. And the creature stays here, dead or alive." Lyra's face went pale. She whispered, "He sounds like the ones who took my mother." Ethan looked down at her, his jaw tightening. "Then we'll find her before he does." The tunnel lights flickered as heavy footsteps echoed from above. Drones and soldiers were closing in fast. Ethan reloaded his rifle and turned to Lyra. "We're not just running anymore. We're going to finish what your mother started." Lyra lifted her head, her expression calm but determined. "Then listen carefully," she said. "The tunnels have their own song, I'll guide you." And as the rumble of soldiers grew louder behind them, the blind alien girl began to hum, a haunting sound that echoed through the stone like living light. The tunnel responded. The walls shifted. The path opened, and together they vanished into the deeper dark. The tunnels beneath Varel grew stranger the deeper they went. The air was cooler, carrying a soft vibration that brushed against the skin like a low hum. The light on Ethan's wrist flickered, barely piercing the mist ahead. Beside him, Lyra walked with calm steps, one hand touching the wall, her fingers gliding over the ancient symbols that glowed faintly in blue. Ethan had long stopped trying to understand how she moved so confidently through the dark. She was blind, yet she seemed more aware of everything than he was. He stumbled often, tripped on debris, and cursed under his breath. She never did. At one point, she turned to him and whispered, "Don't breathe too loud." "The walls are listening," Ethan frowned. "The walls?" Lyra nodded. "They remember voices. My people built these tunnels to hold memories. Every sound that ever passed here still lives inside the stone." Ethan felt a shiver run through him. "So your people could record voices in rock?" "Yes," she said softly. "My mother called them echo crystals. They store what hearts cannot forget." They kept walking until the tunnel opened into a wide chamber. A pool of silver water lay in the center, perfectly still. Around it were tall crystal pillars glowing with dim blue light. The sound in the air changed. Faint whispers like someone talking far away. Lyra stepped forward and knelt beside the water. "This is one of the sacred chambers," she said. "The place where truth hides." Ethan crouched beside her, glancing nervously at the scanner on his wrist. "I'm picking up strange energy here. Could be dangerous." Lyra ignored him. Her fingers brushed the surface of the water. The pool rippled and the whispers grew louder. Then, from the crystals around them, a faint voice began to sing. It was a soft, melodic voice, warm, gentle, filled with sadness. Ethan froze. "Is that—" Lyra's breath caught. "Mother." The song filled the chamber, echoing through the air like a lullaby that had traveled across time. The voice spoke in the alien language, but Lyra translated quietly. "To my child, Lyra. If you hear this, it means I failed to stop them. But don't be afraid. The harmony still lives inside you. Find the one who listens and you will not be alone." Tears welled in Lyra's eyes. "She left this for me," she whispered. "She knew I would come." Ethan swallowed hard. "She mentioned the one who listens. What does that mean?" Lyra turned toward him slowly. "Maybe." "She meant you," Ethan blinked. "Me?" She nodded. "You hear with your heart, not just your ears. That's what my mother believed in. Hearts that could understand sound beyond language." He didn't know what to say. The idea that this alien scientist had somehow predicted his arrival felt impossible, yet the words fit too perfectly. Before they could speak again, the chamber lights dimmed. The air changed. A deep metallic thud echoed from above. The tunnels trembled. Ethan looked up sharply. They found us. Lyra's head turned toward the ceiling. The heavy ones, she whispered. They're close. Ethan grabbed his rifle. We need to move. But Lyra stayed by the pool listening. Wait, the song isn't finished. Lyra. The water shimmered again, and another voice came through. Weaker this time, rushed, full of fear. It was the same woman, but now she was shouting. They betrayed us. The humans, they twisted harmony into a weapon. They don't want peace, they want control. If you find this, run. Don't let them find you. The message cut off with a burst of static. The crystals dimmed. The song ended. Ethan's stomach turned cold. A weapon? Lyra's voice shook. They used my mother's work to make people obey. Harmony wasn't supposed to harm anyone. Ethan clenched his fists. He remembered whispers from the military about a secret mind resonance device tested during the war. They said it made alien troops surrender without firing a shot. He'd never known it came from her people. From her mother. Before he could explain, the wall beside them cracked open. A blinding red light cut through the dark. Search drones. Behind them came the sound of heavy boots and a voice amplified through a speaker. Ethan Cole, you are under arrest for treason. Step away from the alien and surrender immediately. Ethan's chest tightened. That voice again. Commander Rylan. Lyra grabbed his hand. Don't let them take me, please. Ethan looked at her trembling fingers, then at the armed soldiers stepping through the opening. He raised his weapon. Over my dead body. Ethan, Rylan's voice thundered. You're defending a war experiment. You think she's innocent? Her kind nearly destroyed us. She's a child. Ethan shouted back. She's blind. She's lost. Blind or not, she's dangerous. Rylan barked. You have 10 seconds. Lyra's breathing grew shaky. The air around her began to hum again. The same deep resonance that had moved the tunnel before. Ethan felt it vibrate in his chest. Lyra, he said carefully. I don't want to hurt anyone, she whispered. But they won't stop. The hum grew louder. The crystals around the chamber flared bright blue. The soldiers shouted in panic as their weapons short-circuited. The ground trembled violently, sending dust and rock cascading from the ceiling. Run, Ethan yelled. He grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her through the smoke-filled passage as the tunnel collapsed behind them. The last thing they heard was Rylan's furious voice fading into static. You can't run forever, Cole. As they stumbled into another tunnel, coughing and covered in dust, Lyra whispered weakly. Mother's voice. It saved us again. Ethan looked at her, his heart pounding. Then we follow it, he said. All the way to the truth. And as the echoes of the collapse faded, a soft hum remained. Her mother's song still alive in the walls, guiding them deeper into the void. The air in the tunnels was heavy with dust and echoes. Every sound, every breath, bounced off the stone walls and came back twisted, like the planet itself was whispering warnings. Ethan led Lyra through a narrow passage that smelled of smoke and static. His pulse pounded in his ears. The explosion behind them had sealed the chamber, but he knew it wouldn't stop Commander Rylan for long. They walked until the tunnel opened into a wide chamber filled with strange glowing veins that pulsed like living nerves. The walls shimmered faintly with alien script. Lyra placed her hand on one of them. This place is alive, she whispered. Ethan looked around uneasily. Alive? She nodded. It feels. It listens. My mother said the core of Virel could think. Not like humans, but like music thinking of its next note. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. Let's just hope it's a friendly tune. Lyra smiled weakly. The planet knows me. It won't hurt us. They sat down beside a cracked pillar to rest. Ethan pulled a small pack of rations from his bag and handed her a piece. She sniffed it curiously. It smells like burnt stars, she said. He chuckled softly. Close enough. It's dehydrated food, not very tasty. She took a small bite, then wrinkled her nose. Humans eat sadness, Ethan laughed despite himself. You're not wrong. For a moment, the fear between them eased. But then Lyra's expression changed. Her head tilted and her voice dropped to a whisper. Someone's coming. Ethan tensed instantly. Are you sure? I hear heartbeats, she said. Fast ones. Angry ones. Before he could react, a flash of red light filled the chamber. Soldiers in black armor stormed in from both sides, rifles raised. Ethan jumped to his feet, shielding Lyra behind him, and then a tall figure stepped forward, Commander Rylan. The man's armor was scratched from battle, but his posture was perfect, his voice cold as stone. "Ethan Cole," he said. "You never learned when to follow orders." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Orders? You call burning cities orders? You call killing children orders?" Rylan's eyes narrowed. "You've been poisoned by pity. That creature isn't a child. It's a remnant of an enemy project. A hybrid built for manipulation. She's not a weapon," Ethan shouted. "She's scared, and she's blind." Rylan took a step closer. "Blindness doesn't make her harmless. She's the daughter of Dr. Saren Varel, the architect of Project Harmony, the same woman who almost made us slaves to her song." Lyra flinched at her mother's name. "You lie," she whispered. "My mother wanted peace," Rylan smirked. "Peace? No control. Her harmony was a weapon designed to bend minds. She could make soldiers drop their guns just by singing. Do you understand what that means, Cole? One word and entire armies could obey." Ethan's stomach twisted. "You're twisting the truth. She wanted connection, not control." Rylan raised his rifle. "I can't let you risk another war. Step aside." Lyra's voice trembled. "Please, Ethan." "Don't let them take me." Ethan raised his own weapon. "If you want her, you'll have to shoot me first." For a heartbeat, the two men stared at each other. Friends turned enemies, both believing they were right. Rylan sighed. "Then you leave me no choice." He gestured, and the soldiers moved forward. Ethan fired first, bright plasma bolts lighting up the chamber. The room erupted into chaos. Lyra screamed and covered her ears as the echoes bounced wildly off the walls. The sound overwhelmed her. Every shot, every shout was a storm of noise. "Lyra, stay down." Ethan yelled, firing again, but Lyra couldn't think. The fear in her chest turned into something deeper, a vibration rising from within her. The walls began to hum. The floor trembled. Ethan felt the air shift. "Lyra!" A blinding pulse of blue energy exploded from her body. The sound wasn't a scream, it was a wave. It rippled through the air like thunder underwater. The soldiers were thrown backward, their weapons sparking. Even Rylan staggered, clutching his helmet as static screamed through his comms. The chamber walls cracked. The light veins pulsed brighter. When the echo faded, the room was silent. Dust drifted through the air like snow. Ethan's ears rang painfully. He looked around. The soldiers were unconscious, their armor scorched. Lyra was kneeling, trembling, her hands pressed to her ears. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt them." Ethan dropped beside her, grabbing her shoulders gently. "It's okay." "You didn't know." Tears rolled down her pale cheeks. "The sound. It came from me. It felt like lightning inside." Ethan looked at her with awe and fear. "That's what harmony really is," he murmured. "It's inside you." Behind them, Rylan groaned and pushed himself up, half-blinded. "You see?" he rasped. "She is the weapon." Ethan stood, fury burning in his chest. "No. She's the cure, if we let her be." Rylan tried to raise his rifle again, but the ceiling cracked and collapsed between them. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. "Come on, we have to go." They ran through a narrow passage as the chamber fell apart behind them. When they finally stopped, gasping for breath, Lyra looked up at him with frightened eyes. "He'll come again," she said softly. Ethan nodded grimly. "Then we'll find your mother first." Lyra hesitated, then whispered, "You're not like the others." He gave a faint smile. "Neither are you." And as they walked deeper into the glowing maze, the echoes of Rylan's voice chased them through the dark, a promise of the storm yet to come. The air deep beneath Varel grew warmer the closer they moved toward the planet's heart. The tunnels had changed, no longer broken ruins, but smooth halls that hummed with living light. Strange patterns moved across the walls like ripples in water, glowing softly each time Lyra passed. It was as if the planet recognized her touch. Ethan walked beside her, his weapon lowered, his heart heavy. Every step echoed the sound of his choice, betraying his own species to protect one alien child. But when he looked at Lyra, small and glowing faintly in the dark, he knew he would make that choice again. "How far does this place go?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head, listening to the rhythm in the walls. "We're almost there. The air sings differently here." "The air sings?" Ethan smiled faintly. She nodded. "It carries her voice." Ethan stopped walking. "Your mother?" "Yes," she said softly. "She's close. I can feel her song beneath the stone. It's faint, but it's still alive. Ethan tightened his grip on his pack and motioned for her to lead the way. They passed through a circular doorway covered in flowing symbols. The moment they crossed the threshold, the walls flared bright gold. A low musical tone filled the chamber. The sound was not mechanical. It felt alive, as if the very air was breathing. In the center of the room stood a stasis pod, half buried under vines of glowing crystal. Inside, surrounded by gentle blue light, lay a tall alien woman with silver skin and calm, sleeping eyes. Lyra gasped. "Mother?" She ran forward, pressing her small hands against the glass. Her voice trembled. "She's still here. She's still singing." Ethan approached carefully, studying the pod. His scanner detected faint life signs. "She's alive," he said quietly. "Barely, but alive." He found the pod's control panel covered in alien runes. "If I can figure this out, maybe I can wake her." Lyra stood beside him, tracing the runes with her fingers. "The code is music, not numbers," she said softly. "The system listens for the right tone. So we have to sing?" Ethan asked, surprised. She nodded. "She taught me her melody when I was small. She said if I ever got lost, I could call her back with the same song." Ethan stepped back, watching as Lyra closed her eyes and began to hum. The sound was soft at first, shaky, uncertain, but then it grew stronger, filling the chamber with a haunting beauty. The crystals on the walls pulsed with every note. The pod began to glow brighter, responding to her voice. Ethan's breath caught. The air vibrated around him. The planet itself seemed to hum in harmony. Then, with a hiss of escaping air, the pod unlocked. The glass slid open. The woman inside opened her eyes, pale silver like Lyra's. Lyra. Her voice was weak but gentle, like a breeze brushing over water. Lyra threw herself into her mother's arms, sobbing. "I thought I lost you. I thought they took you away forever." Dr. Saren Varel smiled faintly, her trembling hands touching her daughter's face. "You found me, my little songbird. You followed the harmony home." Ethan stood quietly, watching the reunion. For a moment there was peace, something pure that didn't belong in the middle of a war. Then Saren's gaze shifted to Ethan. "You're human." He nodded slowly. "Ethan Cole, I helped her." She studied him carefully, her voice calm but cautious. "Do you know what she carries?" "I know she's not a weapon," he said firmly. Saren smiled sadly. "No, she isn't, but she could be, if used wrongly. The harmony inside her connects to all living minds. It was meant to share emotions across species and to end fear. But the humans twisted it into control." Ethan clenched his fists. "Your Project Harmony, like they used it in the war." "Yes," Saren said, lowering her eyes. "They turned music into a weapon. When I saw what they'd done, I hid Lyra and destroyed my research. But they came anyway." Ethan's stomach turned. "Commander Ryland said you tried to enslave us." Saren's face hardened. "He's the one who wanted harmony for conquest. He wanted silence, not peace." Before Ethan could respond, the chamber lights flickered. A deep rumble shook the ground. Lyra flinched. "They're here." Saren rose slowly, her strength returning. "They've found us." Ethan raised his weapon and looked toward the entrance. The air shimmered, and the familiar red light of a drone cut through the darkness. Behind it, a figure stepped into view. Commander Ryland, bruised but unbroken, his blaster aimed at them. "Step away from her, Cole," Ryland said coldly. "This ends now." Saren stepped forward, her silver skin glowing faintly. "You've done enough harm, Commander," Ryland sneered. "You think I'll let you turn my soldiers into your choir? You're not saving anyone. You're spreading poison." Saren shook her head. "No, you just never learned to listen." Then she began to sing. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even human. The sound was pure, a ripple of light and sound weaving through the air. The soldiers behind Ryland froze mid-step, their weapons lowering. The red drones flickered and shut down one by one. Ryland shouted, clutching his head. "Stop it!" But the melody kept flowing, wrapping the room in calm. The light grew until even the walls of the chamber glowed with living color. Ethan felt tears sting his eyes. For the first time since the war began, he felt peace, real peace. When the song finally faded, Saren looked at him and whispered, "Now you understand. Harmony doesn't force, it heals." But before Ethan could reply, the floor trembled again. This time not from Ryland's soldiers, but from the planet itself. Saren's eyes widened. They've awakened the core. If we don't stop it, Varel will collapse. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. Then tell us what to do. Saren turned toward the glowing chamber door, her expression resolute. We finished the song, for all worlds. And together they stepped into the light, leaving the ruins of war behind as the final melody began to stir. The ground of Varel trembled like a wounded heart. Rivers of blue light cracked open across the surface, spreading through the tunnels like glowing veins. The entire planet was alive, and in pain. Inside the central chamber, Ethan, Lyra, and Dr. Saren Varel stood before a massive crystal core that pulsed like a living sun. The air around them shimmered with strange energy. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, a melody of light that neither human nor alien could fully understand. Saren's voice was steady despite the chaos. This is the core of harmony. My people built it long before the war. It connects all living minds through sound and emotion. But if it's awakened by violence, Ethan finished quietly, it destroys everything. Lyra held his hand tightly. Mother, it's angry. I can hear it screaming. Saren placed her palm against the crystal. The glow softened at her touch. It doesn't want destruction. It only mirrors what it hears: fear, anger, hate. If we want to save Varel, we must change the song. Ethan frowned. You mean, we have to make it feel peace? She nodded. Exactly. But it will take all of us, human and alien voices together. Before they could begin, a voice echoed through the chamber. You won't get the chance. Commander Ryland stepped out from the shadows, scorched armor gleaming under the crystal's light. His face was pale, his eyes full of fury. He held his blaster aimed at Saren. You think I'll let you rewrite our minds with your alien magic? He shouted. This ends now. Ethan stepped forward. Ryland, listen to me. No, you listen. Ryland snapped. You betrayed your species for a lie. That child isn't hope, she's the end of humanity. Lyra's voice trembled, but she didn't hide. I don't want to end anyone. I only want the voices to stop fighting. Her innocence only made Ryland's rage burn hotter. You don't understand what you are. He fired. The shot never reached her. A shimmering barrier of light formed in front of Lyra, breaking the blast into harmless sparks. The core reacted, glowing brighter, humming in rhythm with Lyra's heartbeat. Saren shouted, Ethan! It's responding to her emotions. She's the key. Ryland tried to fire again, but the ground shook violently. The blast missed, striking a column. Rocks rained down. Ethan tackled Ryland, wrestling the blaster away. You don't get it, Ryland, Ethan yelled, pinning him down. She's trying to save everyone. Ryland struggled, spitting dust. You can't save humanity by joining the monsters. Ethan's voice broke. You already became one. The ground split between them as the core flared blinding white. The energy forced them apart. Ethan stumbled back toward Lyra and Saren, his chest heaving. The planet's voice filled the chamber, a deep, resonant hum that grew louder and louder as if crying for help. The air turned heavy, charged with emotion, grief, rage, sorrow, fear, everything that had ever been felt on this battlefield. Lyra looked up, tears glimmering in her pale eyes. It's too much, she whispered. So many voices crying. Saren knelt beside her. Then answer them, my child. Give them something else to hear. Lyra closed her eyes. I can't do it alone. Ethan placed his hand on her shoulder. Then you won't, he took a deep breath. He had no idea what to sing, but he let his heart speak instead. Slowly, softly, he began to hum. The same tune Lyra's mother had sung to awaken the pod. His voice was rough, human, imperfect, but honest. Lyra joined him. Her voice blended with his like light and shadow weaving together. The core brightened, its wild vibrations slowing into rhythm with their melody. Saren added her voice last, higher, clearer, carrying the ancient language of Varel. The sound filled the chamber and then spread outward, through the tunnels, the surface, the atmosphere. Above them, in orbit, human warships and alien vessels were locked in battle. But when the song reached them, the pilots froze. The sound passed through every radio, every frequency, not as words, but as feeling. Anger dulled. Weapons lowered. Soldiers began to weep without knowing why. The harmony signal had awakened. Back in the chamber, Ryland fell to his knees, clutching his head. His voice cracked. What is this? Ethan looked at him. It's peace, Rylan. You just never learned how to listen. Rylan's eyes softened for a moment, then the floor beneath him crumbled. Ethan lunged, grabbing his arm and pulling him to safety. For a second, their old friendship returned, silent but real. The core's light grew so bright it washed the entire chamber in gold. The hum turned into a single, steady tone. Calm, complete. The planet stopped shaking. Lyra's eyes glowed softly. It's listening now, she whispered. It understands, Saren smiled faintly. Then our work is done. Ethan looked around, the walls, the light, the air, everything seemed to breathe again. The song had healed the planet. He knelt beside Lyra. You did it, she shook her head gently. We did it. You helped me see the stars, even though you can't see my world, Ethan smiled. And you taught me how to listen. As they stepped out of the chamber, the sky above Virel had changed. The clouds glowed in soft waves of blue and silver. The sound of peace made visible. Lyra tilted her head toward the sky. Do you hear it? Ethan listened. The wind carried a faint echo. Her mother's song carried across two worlds. I hear it, he said quietly. And this time, I'll never forget it. The blind alien girl smiled, her face glowing in the new light. For the first time, the universe was silent, not with fear but with harmony.